The Atlanta Hawks start to the year has caught a lot of people by surprise, as they face Denver tonight, then the Bucks Sunday, looking to break their 5-game skid. But before I get into the video, an important thing to note with Atlanta is most of their games have come this year on the road against playoff teams. Their last 8 games, in fact, coming against Golden State, Utah, Washington, Phoenix, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn. The year has truly been a slog of matchups for the Hawks, so even while they've had a healthier, deeper roster than last year, they stand currently at 1-7 on the road, with their one win coming against New Orleans. And honestly, the Hawks' slow start to the year begins with them not playing with the same intensity and motivation they did to close last season. Because after firing Lloyd Pierce, the group came together playing for their interim head coach Nate McMillan. By the playoffs, they were eager to prove they belonged on the bigger stage, controlling games with Trae through the pick and roll offensively with deadly 3-point shooting around him. And without their 2 best perimeter defenders in Deandre Hunter and Cam Reddish for the majority of the postseason, they held up defensively through Clint Capela anchoring things in the middle, while John Collins and Onyeka Okongwu stepped up in spurts, playing their roles well. But to start this year, it's been totally different. There has been a league-wide drop-off offensively, and the Hawks have been no exception. Things simply don't look the same on that end. To their credit, Cam Reddish got off on a bang offensively to start, while John Collins has been uber productive with the opportunities he's been given as well. But even with that in mind, the Hawks have had growing pains offensively, with Hunter, Reddish, and other new perimeter faces in Delon, Wright being incorporated. Nate McMillan has had to adjust. Clint Capela, meanwhile, hasn't been nearly as productive a role man to pick and roll as he was last year, and the best way to describe the Hawks offense is a work in progress. A lot of these guys are trying to figure out what their roles are. Some of that means John Collins or Kevin Huerter pull up mid-range jumpers with plenty of time left on the shot clock, or Trae Young's massive drop-off getting to the line. Because after averaging 9.5 foul shots a game to start last year, Trae's been getting to the line nearly half as often to start this year, at just 5.3 attempts a night. I expect a lot of those things to be ironed out, like cutting out a lot of those mid-range attempts in favor of more threes for Bogdan Bogdanovic and Huerter. Changes like that for the way the roster is built should help them get closer to their ceiling offensively. The defensive end, however, has been the problem in Atlanta. After finishing as one of the better defenses in the league last year, I expected it to only get better this year with their 2 best perimeter defenders coming back into the lineup. Yet so far, it's looked much worse. And sure, their defensive rating is around the same as it was last year, but given the league's ongoing slump, it doesn't take long to notice the Hawks' defense is a mess, which starts with half their team not being in the best shape. Conditioning-wise, with Deandre Hunter, Clint Capela, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Kevin Huerter, those guys spent this past summer recovering and getting back from lower body surgeries and procedures, and now they're playing heavy minutes for Atlanta. The first 2 in Capela and Hunter specifically are being leaned on to hold it all together defensively the way they were last year, but simply they've been shells of themselves. So with Trae and Bogdan starting in the backcourt, it's led to them ranking 28th in the league in defensive rating 12 games in. Capela particularly, who carried the Hawks defense last year, couldn't even start running until the very end of training camp. And oh, by the way, his backup in Onyeka Okongwu, who had great moments last postseason, is still recovering from surgery on his labrum. I think that can best describe the Hawks' drop-off in rim protection. Capela, his rough start to the year is essentially removing the bottom Jenga block. On the perimeter, there have been some promising defensive possessions where they're communicating and looking good, causing steals, but as games go on, it's easy to pick out their struggles getting back defensively, and in the half court, containing opposing ball handlers, and simply making the right rotational reads soon enough. The Hawks really just playing themselves into game shape and adjusting is the best way to describe their 4-8 start to the year, and I can all but assure you things will only get easier from here. They've had just 4 home games, and like I touched on, a lot of those teams they're matched up against were totally juiced up. But the Eastern Conference, meanwhile, is way deeper than it was last year. There's legitimately 13 teams who have a real chance to make the playoffs. Now, by the time you're seeing this video, the Denver game probably ended, to which they either won and looked really good, which for some people may render this entire video useless, or maybe they came out, played horribly, and now Hawks fans are hitting the panic button. But regardless, let me know in the comments down below how you're feeling about the team moving forward, and your thoughts on the video. And as always, I'll see you next time.